All right, let's go across to Srinivasan Jain, who is in exclusive conversation with the Finance Minister of Tamil Nadu.
So the big burning story is the fuel price hike, and the politics has exploded around it. I'm joined by Dr. P. Thiagarajan, Finance Minister, Tamil Nadu, joins me on NDTV. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Thiagarajan, for joining me. We're seeing, whether it's on the streets or in Parliament, the opposition taking on the government, saying, listen, 9 hikes in 10 days, this is hurting the public. You need to cut prices, you need to stop this. The government argument, of course, being that prices are globally going up and we don't have a choice. To that you would say what?
I'd say probably 3 things. The first is that it's a bit of a specious argument that prices are going up, because actually prices peaked at about 120 a barrel a few days ago and they're actually going down. So when they were going up all the way from 70, 80 to 120, for political reasons, this government did not raise the prices. Now that the oil prices are coming down, the pump prices are going up. So that's at a granular level, it's a bit perverse. The second point I'd like to make is that there should be no surprise. There is no explosion. There is nothing here. If you take a particular action, you will get a particular outcome. This government has always shifted the tax burden away from progressive direct taxation, which only the union can do, and shifted it towards regressive indirect taxation on the common man. And so you keep doing that for 6-7 years, and you're lucky that crude oil prices keep dropping or never go back to the levels they were in the UPA government. One day your luck runs out. One day, maybe because of Ukraine, maybe because of other things, commodities tend to have long life cycles.
Right.
One day the price goes back to $100 or $110 a barrel, and you're caught without any kind of insurance. You just set yourself up to fail.
Okay. Let me come to each of those things one by one. Let me start with what you said at the beginning. You're saying that you don't buy this logic of the government that we are raising prices because it's growing up globally. You're saying prices, in fact, have been volatile. They've not just gone up, they've been up and down. And you're saying that the timing is politically suspect, implying what? So you're alleging that basically during this period, during the election period, which was somewhere towards November to March, there was a freeze on price hike because of elections. Is that the direct allegation?
Yeah, I'm not alleging anything. That's what the data tells me. The data tells me that this is a 90-day price chart. I don't know if you can tell. For 81 days, the price was flat. And then 9 days it went. I hope I have the oil price chart with me. The oil price chart has got nothing to do with this. The oil prices peaked at $120 a barrel about a week or 10 days ago, and have been, they came down to about 95 and then have gone up to about 105, and they're back around 100. So if you just overlay, it's public information, anybody has the internet, can you take it in?
Right.
You overlay the crude oil price, and these are not arguable, right? This is the diesel price. This is the petrol price. Anybody who can read a basic chart, if you passed like 10th grade, you can see that 90 days the price is completely flat. And then all of a sudden it shoots.
Okay.
Where's the logic here? When was the oil markets flat for 90 days? I don't recall that.
Okay. So anyway, given that this is where we are today, and now in a sense we are seeing a kind of pent-up increasing of prices, and it is of course obviously hurting the consumer, the argument coming from the government is that, listen, why don't states, particularly opposition states, which are complaining and protesting, or parties which are complaining and protesting, why don't they cut taxes, the state taxes? So, like for example, in Tamil Nadu, I believe petrol is at about 108 rupees a litre. You're not amongst the highest in the country. According to our data, you're kind of 9th highest. So you're somewhere sort of, broadly in the middle of the pack. But you can still make that argument that why don't states cut taxes if they want to at least give some relief? To that, you would say what?
Srinivasan, when I was a kid, there was this thing, I think it was Aesop's fable about a dog in the manger. That's what I'm reminded about. Here you have a union government that has the capacity to do both direct taxation and indirect taxation, has a clear philosophy of being a rich man's government, therefore taxing the poor man and the middle class, doing it for 7 years and 8 years, ramped up the taxation on petrol from 948 on the day it took office to 2790, and then has cut it back 10 rupees in a great gesture of magnanimity and brought it down to double the taxation that it was on the date of coming to power. And then they tell us, who don't have any access to direct taxation power, who only have indirect taxation, who have no other way to make money except indirect taxation, say, no, I can't cut, you cut. It's worse than a dog in the manger. It's actually a kind of perverse logic that says, neither am I competent, nor will I admit that I'm incompetent. I'll make it look like you're incompetent. We don't have direct taxation. Give us direct taxation power. We'll show you how to manage taxation properly.
Okay. So essentially, what you're saying is that what I mean, just to simplify for the viewer, that indirect taxation, which is the VAT, the value-added taxes that states can impose, that is the only way that you can make revenue, and that is why are you saying that it's not fair to say to states that you need to reduce VAT, because then you lose your revenue earning capacity?
I'm saying something slightly more than that. I'm saying that Tamil Nadu, on the date of August 1st, 2014, had total VAT of about 15 rupees 67 paisa. Today, after we made all the cuts, that price has gone up about 18 rupees. So compared to 15 rupees, we're at about 18 or 19 rupees. The union government, which once was at 948 and sharing the 948 because much of it was excise and very little of it was cess and surcharge, has gone after the 10 rupee cut, has more than doubled its taxes and has taken it all in cess and surcharge and doesn't share even one paisa of that with us. Where is the logic in this? Where is the fairness in this? You more than double your taxes, you don't share any part of it with us, and you say, no, Tamil Nadu, you've increased by 25%. Oh, please cut it down. Doesn't make any logic to you. Is there any fairness in this?
Okay, so just to explain to our viewers, just very quickly, is that essentially what has happened is that basically on excise duty has two components to it. One is tax, which is shared with the center earns, which is shared with states, and the other are cesses, which goes entirely to the center. Earlier, that balance was a little more proportionate. Now, a bulk of that is cesses. So almost 90% is coming to the center, and only 10% is getting shared between the.
So, in my opinion, Srinivasan, there are three sins here. The first sin is you have doubled the rate of taxation.
Right.
Most states have only increased it by 10, 20, 30%.
Okay.
Second, you have made all of it indivisible, as you said. You made it into cess instead of excess. But the cardinal sin, in my opinion, is this misleading logic that somehow you are so crucial and you cannot cut even though you have more than doubled and taken all of it for yourself.
Okay.
And we, heaven forbid, who have only one taxation power and we've increased only 25%, that we should be the ones that magnanimously cut the price.
Okay, in that event, all right, Dr. Rajan, then in that event, what is the way out? What is the solution here? Are you saying that the center should now stop hiking fuel prices? Because otherwise, I'm still trying to understand what's the solution then to the Aam Aadmi or the Aam Aurat for whom this is now becoming a nightmare? Yes.
Yeah, I think most of us studied kind of physics up to 10th grade or whatever the law required. For every action, there is a reaction. If you keep on conveying your taxes onto the poor and the common man, one day or the other, you will face the consequences. I've raised this in the assembly in Tamil Nadu when I was an opposition MLA. When the ADMK government raised that, I said, listen, your cycle is going to turn. If you keep on, see, they did 7 years of the following. Every time that the price of crude oil dropped, they increased the excise and the cess and surcharge.
Right.
Every time it went up, they increased the price. So it was a heads they win, tails we lose logic.
Okay, so you're saying, no, Dr. Rajan, hold on. Yeah. I'm saying, you're saying, okay, they didn't pass on the benefits of the earlier price drops to the consumer because you're saying they kept on raising taxes. But I'm saying right now, let's assume, okay, for whatever now, not getting into what happened. Now, if currently this is the situation, let's say you were the finance minister, what would you do to...
No, I love your logic, right? Somebody does something really bad.
To ease the...
They face the bad consequences of it. And then you say, never mind what happened.
I'm not saying never mind. No. Firstly, as a journalist, my argument can never be never mind. I'm simply saying what next? What can be done now?
Actually, the union government seems to be going in the right direction, which is that what I said earlier, the ratio of direct progressive taxes to indirect regressive taxes had skewed badly, which was 55-45 or 56-44 in the UPA ending days, had skewed almost exactly the opposite. For example, in the final accounts presented by the Union Finance Minister on February 1st, it was only 47% direct and 53% indirect. But I'm happy to note that in the current year the revised estimate and in the next year budgets, they have started to skew the ratio back again. So it's gone to 50-50 in this year, projected, and gone to 51.6, 48.4. This is the only long-term solution. The long-term solution is to make taxation fair. The OECD guideline is 60% direct taxation, 40% indirect, because direct taxation is progressive. I can take more from rich people. Now, the only problem is constitutionally, states don't have the power of direct taxation.
Right.
We have argued multiple times, at least for the better off states, per capita income almost 3 lakh rupees in Tamil Nadu. We should now have the capacity to do direct taxation. If you don't want to be fair, let us be fair. We will take more from the rich and we will take less from the poor.
Okay, but given that I mean, there is no possibility or likelihood at least of that happening for now.
Come on, what do you mean? They change the constitution whenever they feel like it?
No, I'm saying right now, right? Dr. Rajan, I'm talking about right now. What may happen down the line, who knows?
They own everything. They can do it next week.
Okay. All right, but I'm saying if that does not happen at the moment, is it fair to say that as far as the ordinary citizen is concerned, they just have to live with rising prices?
No, it turns out what the philosophy of the union government is, right? If they believe that they cannot afford to miss their targets, and if they believe that the oil marketing companies that have been making high profits for the last few years, if they believe that they should not pay some sacrifice or they should not be patriotic, then of course they keep hiking the prices.
Okay.
If they believe that having lived off the fat for the last several years, all the way, remember, oil went down to $30 a barrel. Don't forget that. Don't forget that when the oil prices were $120, $130 a barrel back in 2012-13, the petrol pump price was lower than it is today.
Right.
So you have gotten yourself into an addiction to these taxes as your balancing tax. Now you have to make a moral decision.
Okay.
Is this something that you're willing to give up for the greater good and find other ways of managing this revenue loss, or at least till oil prices come back down again? Or do you really stick to the number and keep the balance sheet looking good and the people pay the price? My fear is not this. My fear is a second order fear.
Okay, well,
These are input costs. These are input costs, right? Petrol and diesel are input costs.
Yes.
If you have this kind of spike in petrol and diesel, you are likely to see inflationary impact at a much more kind of uncontrollable level. That's my real fear.
Okay.
I mean, I know there are competent people looking at this. I hope they make the right decision.
All right. Well, let's see how it plays itself out. But thank you, Dr. Rajan, as always, for talking to us. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
OLX Auto, see.
We live in a